Okay, welcome to the Policy Committee meeting for the 9th of July. We have a apology from Councillor Carson, and I move that the apologies be received from Councillor Carson and leave of absence be granted. Seconded by Councillor Wheeler. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, it's carried. Any declarations of interest? There are none. And public forum, we have no members of the public wishing to speak to us today. And so we will move on to the draft submission on resource management national direction packages 1 to 3. Group Manager, would you like to address the report?
Yes, thank you. Just a small introduction, just to note that the contents of the report were workshopped with Council on the 19th of June, and assuming the committee supports Council making a submission on this matter, then I'd suggest through you, Madam Chair, that we probably look to take the cover paper as read, and then look to perhaps do a page turn review of any substantive comments on the draft submission itself, which starts on page 185 of the agenda.
All right, so let's turn to 185.
That's really acknowledge Emily and Gabby at the back there. Who's involved with this and are available for any.
Do you want to come over where we can?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. All right, so if we're going to go page by page, anything for 186? Yes, Councillor Swales.
Through you, Chair, would it be quite advantageous for our two officers to actually, for an overview for those that are not probably aware of how they have responded to this, when they look at the actual documents, it might be easy if you explain how you reference what we've responded to with regard to the questions, because it is in a different format, just a suggestion. Just so that we bring everyone along.
Yep.
Thank you.
Chair. So initially, as you'll see, the discussion documents run through a range of questions. We've tried to summarise the responses to those questions in the round by document or package, really, as we go. With the first page, 189, I believe it is, which has the overarching comments that relate to a number of the documents and are intended to just sort of set the flavour of our thoughts or Council's overall thoughts on these matters. There's a number of the thoughts do really stretch across all of the information provided. So the submission is set out by national direction, piece of national direction. So the package 1, for example, deals with about 10 different pieces of national direction. So we've gone through them piece by piece, so to speak, in these pages.
Thank you. Thank you, officers.
So the first document we've got there is in the infrastructure set, and it is the proposed new national policy statement for infrastructure, which starts on my page number
19.
Okay, page 19 then. Any questions on this one? No? Page 20?
Just through you, the Chair, I think even is just referring back to page 19 and to page 180.
yes,
It is a bit Yeah, tricky, so.
Yeah.
So-
If we can start in the 180s, that would be the right place to start.
So I guess just through you, the chair, so that the first package, infrastructure and development, relates back to that page 19 of the agenda around infrastructure, and so that sort of encompasses both page 187 of the agenda
Yeah.
and 188, and a bit onto 189 and.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any questions on page 187? No, 188? No? Yeah,
Pages
no,
aren't
Gary.
numbered. The pages aren't
Yeah.
numbered in Stella, so because they're sectioned, it's 1 to 9.
Yeah, you're in the, you're in the breakdown, and you're in the.
You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Is
You type it in the page number. You can, councillor.
So much.
Are we gonna swear
I
hard copy?
can do, like,
No.
The next statement, policy statement, is the policy statement for granny flats, which starts, I'm going to go paragraphs now to make it a bit easier, at paragraph 27 of the submission.
Okay,
In the
any
180.
questions about, yes, councillor Hammond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Do we have any control on the quality of the granny flats that are probably going to appear? I can see lots of fires and lots of problems.
Through the chair, we will not be able to issue building consents and we will not be able to issue resource consents, but they are still required to be carried out in accordance with the Building Act. So it is down to the owner to do this correctly as they do it, but they are still required to be carried out in accordance with the Building Act in terms of the materials and the workmanship that is required of that. But we won't have our usual process. They will tell us before they put their plans in. There is a notification process to council to tell us they're going to undertake this work, and a completion notice will come to council as well. So there will be some checks and balances, but less than normal buildings have.
Any,
Oh, not as a question, just a comment, so I'll be.
All right. councillor Griffiths?
Thank you, through you. I'm assuming, and it's just really just what I'm talking out loud, the insurance industry will help to regulate this problem.
Through the chair, your assumption is probably a reasonable one. I'm sure that insurers will get involved in ensuring that they only fund things that are built according to the rules. So you would be taking some risks with your insurance if you chose to go outside of the rules.
Can you also for us just explain the title Granny Flats?
Through the chair, I cannot explain the title. I certainly was not involved in deciding that we should use such a name. They have written it as granny flats in brackets minor residential units. It is our hope that they will choose to use this gender and age specific or generationally specific language sometime in the future. They've used a variety of different names across this work and in the Building Act work. So hopefully they will settle on a name that.
Yeah.
and just through you, Chair, we do make a note of that in paragraph 29.
Yeah, good, good. Okay, oh yes, councillor Wheeler?
Just on 32. The exclusion of car parks and something that, I think it's building up. We've already seen the signs, but where people will have cars and they're parking on the roadside, but not necessarily parking on the roadside, but parking actually on the footpaths now. We're seeing a lot of that. And it mentions here that we're aware of it, but what can we do?
Through the chair, there is very little we can do in terms of requiring anybody to put a car park on site. We are not able to do that. What we can do is take enforcement action for people who park on footpaths, berms, or reserves, or any other places that they're not entitled to park. But if they are parking on legal road in the correct, sides of the road where they're supposed to, there is certainly nothing we can do. But we can take enforcement action for inappropriate parking across some people's driveways and things like that.
I understand that, but we don't generally have the physical officers to be able to do that, and I know we've had quite a few come to us already and talk about that problem. So I just hate to see the problem come to a finale where someone gets bowled or a pedestrian has been forced to go onto the road, and we've known about this issue for quite a while. That's probably where, rather than be reactive, let's be proactive about it. That's my issue. I can see in the future, I can see something like that happening.
Sorry, the Chair, I understand your concern. However, we have been explicitly told by the government that council cannot require car parks to be on private property. We're not able to require that. If people choose to provide them, we welcome that, but we're not able to, and we set minimum dimensions for them if they are provided, but we're not able to require them to have any number of car parks on the site. It's absolutely not allowed for us to do that.
Before we address Councillor Swale's question, can we keep our voices up and projected? Because, of course, we have no microphones. And so Councillor Wheeler, I just noticed, seemed, if you could try and project your voice a bit more, that would be great.
Loud.
Yeah.
Loud.
Okay, Councillor Swales.
Thank you, Chair. Is it not correct though, Emily, this ability where developers don't have to provide car parks has been in legislation for quite some time? It is not a new piece of legislation that has just come in because of minor dwellings. So, there's nothing that we can do because it has been there for quite some time, right?
Through the Chair, yes, that's correct. It has been there since about 2018 or 2020, quite some time now. And we've noticed that initially a lot of developers said no, they wouldn't provide car parks and didn't.
Yeah.
And then more recently, some have provided a smaller number of car parks on site. But it is absolutely their choice. It has been for some time.
In the Act. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, natural hazards. Yep, Councillor Carey.
Just one supporting the concern around catastrophic one being medium. Oh, sorry, one concerning the concern around catastrophic events can be categorised as medium, and I wonder if it's worth getting that it's currently out of step with air planning too. So like the Hickory production zone generally says that's about a 500-year return event, but it's what government as a whole is planning for sort of what government business continuity based on as a catastrophic event. So
Yes, and
I would strengthen that.
Yeah. Didn't Councillor Carson actually raise this issue previously?
Through the Chair, yes, he did. That is where paragraph 37 has come from.
Yeah.
It's from the issue raised in the workshop by Councillor Carson.
Yeah.
Happy to strengthen that point. We'll well best to do that for you.
Good, thank you. Okay, any others on that one before we move on to electricity transmission? No? Okay, so let's move on to electricity transmission activities. Councillor Ultra.
Through the Chair, the National Environmental Standards for Telecommunication Facilities isn't specifically itemised in the submission. I just wanted to ask about the impact on surrounding properties so it says in here that the telecommunication providers will be able to install anywhere on the road reserve, and the heights on page 54 20 metres in residential, 25 metres in commercial, and 35 metres in rural. So I just wonder if that's going to be a surprise for people when they suddenly pop up around their, streets. And the transmission of those towers, how far apart can the towers be? So are we looking at a lot of them needed for our city, or do we know what sort of number of towers could potentially go in?
Through the chair, the existing situation is that they can put these, so this telecommunication facility in the road reserve, but the specified heights are lower. They're related to the existing pole height, so they're around 10 to 15 metres at the moment, and so they're increasing those heights. The reason for suggested increases in height is primarily because we now have 3-storey permitted dwellings in our urban areas. And as I understand it, and I'm no telecommunications expert at all, but you need to be able to get above those to get the signals out. And so the higher they are, the less of them we will need to get a good signal around the city. Very layman's version of telecommunications, but that's how it works. If you're tall, you don't need a lot of these towers. They will only put in as many as are needed to, because these are very expensive pieces of equipment, are needed to supply adequate telecommunications. The part of the provisions of that national environmental standard are around co-location, so that all of the different telco providers can put an antenna, for want of a better word, onto the same tower. So they can all have different thingamajiggs on the same tower. And so the taller it is, the bigger it can be to support the multiple different things on it to give us our telecommunications. Yes, people may be surprised by how tall these are, but it's just a factor of how tall these are. So they won't put up tall ones if there aren't surrounding tall buildings because of the cost. Yeah.
Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Chair. On paras 40 and 41, it says council raises concerns about public charging. What are our concerns?
So, through the chair, the concerns really are around the land transport corridors that might be impeded by the public charging stations.
Yeah.
We are aware of some examples where EV charging has been put in places that's made the sightlines difficult for people in an intersection and things like that. So best intentions to have a really good EV charging, but just we've got a fairly congested road corridor anyway.
Yeah.
We find that other safety concerns come in. So as part of our overarching comments, we had a bit about public safety and things like that. This is a little bit related to that point.
But it's not a permitted activity now, right?
In some places it would be, as it's a commercial activity. It would be in somewhere like the CBD, but not necessarily in other areas. Depends on what's this is a national standard, so of course other councils may have already have different requirements.
Only reason I ask is because if it was not a permitted activity now and there were issues with sightlines, that means it wasn't considered right in the first place, right?
They didn't arise. Sorry, those issues hadn't arisen here in Upper Hutt. We're just aware of them in other places.
That makes sense.
They're not actually issues we've experienced personally.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we move on to primary sector? Highly productive land. No questions there? Oh, Councillor Althorpe.
Chair, could I just ask what other options we have for food resilience, or so for food growing resilience, if there isn't, if we don't have the high grade soils or highly productive land, what other option is there that we can work with?
Chair, we don't really have any kind of food production strategy or anything like that in the district, or even as yet in the region. I know that regionally they were looking at a food strategy or a food food production policy or something for the region. They were looking at it as a project. And I'm not quite sure where that landed, but it certainly hasn't resulted in a published document at this stage. It is a difficult issue for the region because we're a very urban sort of region. But I don't think the removal of the proposal here to remove class 3 soils from being considered highly productive will necessarily change their use very much. As you'll know, most of our class 3 soils in Upper Hutt are not used for commercial farming. Most of them are already at a scale that is lifestyle block development. So it probably won't fundamentally change the way the land is currently used, or Upper Hutt at least. For some other areas like Pukekohe or Horowhenua, they're looking at a very specific special agricultural area for those kind of important food growing areas. And they're looking at how they might deal with that to get that food security in those rural areas. But it's not really an Upper Hutt related issue.
Councillor Swales?
Just a question, knowing that there's a farm that is in agriculture over in the valley there, obviously they're doing a lot of work in upgrading the soil type. Would that have an impact on our position here if they bring it up to spec, because the investment that they're putting into the quality of the soil over there at this particular farm to make it so that it is highly productive? Would that, change our stance here? Or are we looking at now? I'm just wondering, are we future-proofing our answer here for what possibly could happen in the future over there?
Through the chair, that's an interesting question. If somebody is improving their land, in whatever form they might be improving their land, that wouldn't in reality change their land use capability class anyway at this time.
Okay.
Because the classes were set back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And yes, there's an intention to do a regional assessment and update that information, but you wouldn't also want to penalise somebody, if you like, by restricting their activities based on improvements they've made. So I would hope that you wouldn't get into a situation where somebody had improved their soil and made really good productive use of their land and then gets penalised with not being able to ever do anything else with it. So I'm not sure that quite answers your question, but I think that the way this is being done wouldn't change the management of that land. Their intentions will carry on for as long as they wish those intentions to carry on.
Right.
But at some time in the future generations may not wish to continue. The market gardener next to me has reached his retirement years and decided to put his market garden into pasture because he doesn't have any descendants who wish to carry it on. He still wants to carry on owning that land. So land ownership is clearly the primary driver of its use.
And just a subsequent, if that's right here. So you could call upon a precedent that has been set then if there was a change of ownership of a land that they had improved the quality of the soil and brought it higher than 3, that it wouldn't change the designation on that.
No, I'm quite sure I understand the question, but what I would say is that whatever quality that soil has, it is really down to the landowner on how they use it. And if they no longer choose to run that market gardening activity on that site, they should be free, in my view, and certainly in the government's view with this class 3 soil. At the time that they started that activity, whenever in the 70s it was assessed, they should be free to change them.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, freshwater. Anything on freshwater? Surely. No? Oh, Councillor Altra.
Through you, Chair, I just wanted to comment that Te Mana Aotearoa life force of the river. I just don't see how you can rebalance that because it is what it is the life force, and it is water is life. So
Speak up.
The
Speak.
concern I have on page 154 is about the option 2. Says to reinstate Te Mana Otiwai provisions from 2017. That would take it back to wadable rivers, would it not?
Through the chair, I think that is correct in many cases it would. Swimmable and wadable rather than the higher standards. It's
I did have other questions, but I just can't find where I wrote them.
Are you on page 191?
I'm in the main document, I'm not on the, so 191, I've got that, yep.
Okay, any other questions? No. Oh, councillor Swales.
I just want to say that the work done to date has been really, really good. It's 3 pieces of legislation coming down that are quite complex and has made a number of our plans in the pipeline being put on hold, as well as regional plans that have been put on hold purely to see what the outcome of this piece of work is going to be. So just the officers on working with us as governance to get to where we are, and having another workshop is great. So thank you.
Very good. Okay, so that takes us back to our recommendations.
Excuse me, Chair, I did have one more question, I found it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. On page 171, it's under repealing the 190 kilogram per hectare nitrogen limit, and we know that nitrogen is one of the things that contribute to the potentially toxic algae in the river, and that stormwater runoff isn't good for the environment. So if that 190 kilogram limit is repealed, how high could it go? Did it actually give a, does that mean there's no limit?
through the chair, it would appear that way from what I read in the discussion document. So the only information we have, councillor, is exactly what you have in front of you. The discussion documents are all we have to go on. So yes, there is no clear limit suggested in those documents.
Could we express concern about that because of our toxic algae locally? That's something we have every summer, and I think it should be raised, that we should be reducing nitrogen. Not that we have a huge amount of farming that uses nitrogen locally, but still, you don't want a large amount getting in there if anyone does decide to start farming in that way.
Through the chair, we could make further amendments. As you will be aware, the recommendations include an editing committee, and you are a suggested member of that editing committee. So that would be an opportunity to make further refinements to the submission. Thank you.
We'll take note of that.
Yes, through your chair, I think we can take note of that and then take it back to the sub-editing committee to discuss.
Okay, so can I have a mover for the recommendations on page 4?
I'll move it, but I've got a question on one of the recommendations.
Okay.
I'm happy to second.
And seconded by councillor Swales. Okay, councillor Bentley.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to know, I thought the editing committee had already worked on this
We have.
submission, so it goes back.
We're having another one.
Another one. So if we approve this today, how many amendments can be made that or it's non-consequential? Just out of curiosity.
Good question, actually. Yeah.
Through the chair, we have one meeting suggested. We would not intend to the liberty of the committee to comment here, but we would not intend to take any major changes, except things we've heard today, into consideration there. It's more a case of refining points that we already have, given some of the questions we've had today and some of the thoughts we've received today. We'd just like to take another chance to look at it again.
That's fair enough. Thank you.
And I just note that I will be reporting back as per recommendation to the next policy committee, the 27th of July, with what is the final.
Oh, sorry, yes, yeah, you're right.
Okay. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's carried. Okay, can we move on to number 5, private roads?
And that resolution is incorrect. It's actually the next council meeting. It's on the 30th of July. So that's, we can table a final version of that submission at the next council meeting, not policy meeting.
Thank you, that's good spelling for correction.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so private road naming 395 Fergusson Drive. And we've got options here. Your worship.
I actually think we need to be along here. It needs to be a golfing thing. Thing.
A golfing thing.
Well, it's along with a golf course and there's Oakmont, there's Golf Road, there's that, and I think it's a bit more, still very well saying we're going to have names that fit because we've got, but you know, those are 15k up the road. I think it's much better to have that theme there. That's my.
Would you like to address it?
I'm aware this is Kate's paper, but just on the naming, I mean, this has come up several times since I've been with council. And unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't have a naming policy per se. So really, any developer is well within their rights.
Yeah, and we've got precedent as probably issuing without a policy, that's what we're developing. That's where we've landed, that's why we've landed where we've landed. So there's no great logic to it, it is just the precedent of what we've done before.
And through you, Chair, just note that we are moving forward on fixing the wider problem around not having the road naming policy. Our team is meeting this week to kick off a piece of work to develop a road naming policy.
Councillor Swales?
Thank you. Just to take on what His Worship has said, is just because I understand about the road naming policy that we've got and there've been a little, or that we haven't got and we're working on.
Yeah.
Is there any way though that we could have a conversation with the developer to say, hey, you are in an area that has been, kind of the theme is around golfing and things like that. We understand that you want to, particularly around the daughter's name and a remembrance of that. I get that. And maybe a little plaque can go at the beginning of the, how some people put in an insert plaque there. This was developed in memory of, but the name of the actual street, could we have that conversation that it's one of the golfing ones, just a suggestion?
We can take it back, we're open to guidance from the council on this.
Yeah. So, Your Worship, what names did you have in mind? You've got the list here.
I just looked up. Driveway. No. But there's a beautiful big, what was it I saw? Tree. A bit of a Monterey cypress in there. And, there's Cypress Point Golf Course.
So, sorry, Your Worship, but coming up with, at this point.
Well, I'm just saying the theme. I don't care. There's someone, they can go away and come back with names. I'm not with things. I'm just saying.
And we can, if it's through you, Chair, if it's your direction, if it's the committee's direction, we
We
can.
can go back and talk to them.
And have a conversation. That's what we're
It's
asking.
not, but council might agree.
Councillor Ultra and then Councillor Bailey.
Through you, Chair, Elmer Way is an absolutely gorgeous name and I'm absolutely happy to move the recommendations. I don't think that we can push for a naming after a flower or a plant or anything. We don't actually have that currently in place as our policy.
Second choice is a flower.
Yes.
Although
Separate
it's choice
place.
because it's the developer's first choice.
Okay, so Councillor Ultra's put forward a
I'll move the
motion.
recommendations, yeah.
Who's going to move the recommendations, seconded by councillor Hammond?
Can I ask a question?
Yep, certainly, councillor Holderness.
Is the, through you, Chair, but probably, here where the policy resides, I understand it's sort of in its early stages. Is it likely that within the intent of the policy, it would be to keep things where they are geographically? So, if there are themes that are already in place, is it likely that that would continue to be the case in terms of the intent?
Thank you for the question. What our intention is to follow what other organisations do. So I can't answer to that level of detail. We don't want to be reinventing the wheel here. So I can't answer specifically whether it would be theme of golf, if I can use this as an example, in that area, or how we would do it. But when you do look round at other councils, there's pretty clear guidance on how to conduct your naming policies, naming protocol.
Right.
And it gives the officers the opportunity to engage proactively rather than react, is really what we're after here.
Can I have a follow-up? Sorry.
Oh, yes, you
Can I
can do.
can I just follow up with that? With what's there at the moment in that particular location, would officers suggest that there is enough to show that there is a current theme in place?
Through you, Chair, I don't know that I'm the best placed person to answer that question. I mean, there are others that know the area more, because I mean, I can think of names down there. For example, you start at Sutherland Avenue and then you go down Hood Street.
It's because we had yours.
So, you know, that's why we need, that's why we need a policy rather than the precedent of what we've done before.
Councillor Carey, then His Worship.
Yeah, thanks through Chair. The policy, given developer public input, would that have to be consulted on, or is that just decided by council?
We have to consult on it.
Okay.
My understanding.
Then
Just-
Your Worship.
Just when we were doing our policy, my recent meetings with local iwi, they have quite a strong interest in that policy, in that street policy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Swales.
So whilst I believe my colleague, just clarification, I want to know where we are. So councillor Ultra said that her recommendation is to go with the first option. Was there a seconder, and is that
Yes,
on?
councillor Hammond.
Okay, I just want clarification. Okay,
Yeah.
don't. So when are we, if we want to make an amendment, which was originally that we go and talk to the thing, when would I be best to put that on the table? Is it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to suggest that, knowing that there is a theme around that area, I would like the officers to go and see if there can't be some sort of bronze park like at a gateway, acknowledging their daughter who has passed away, but to go with the golfing name, which is what His Worship said around the tree that's there. What was the name of it, Wayne?
Oh, no, stop for a look. I wrote a Monterey cypress.
Yeah,
Or Cupris macrocarpa.
yeah. So if we had one of those names as a golfing, as a name, I would like to move that we do that. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, Cypress Point Way.
So you vote on the amendment.
Sorry, did you get that? Yeah, but it's Cypress Point Way.
I was like,
Well, we won't, but if they go through a golf. Yes,
Yeah, that was such a long,
I know,
no, so
Just,
Can I
hang on,
to
and
be
we'll get
clear,
yeah.
it repeated.
quite clear what you're asking of.
So what we're asking
Yeah.
is to go back to the developer and ask if we could have a golfing themed name for the street and that a plaque be inserted at the beginning acknowledging their daughter that has passed.
Shall we change?
Hang on, please hang on. So we've had a mover and a seconder. So now we are discussing that. Councillor,
Okay. Yeah, I did have one question just quickly on the numbering of the properties. It starts 2, 4, 6, 8,
Yeah.
12, 14, and then 15, 17, 19. Is it just because of the placement at the back of the section? I'm sure there's a science to it, but
Physical location.
it's just the physical location. Okay. And on the amendment, I just feel like we have to be quite sensitive about this because they've obviously put up the name of their late daughter, and we don't have a formal policy. I guess we can go back and ask. So I just think it'd be a bit of a slap in the face to those people. So I think in this instance, I think we should just go with what they've done, but then in the future tighten up that policy, and then we can say actually this is what we're working with, not just we didn't like it, let's go for something else. I just feel it's a little bit insensitive given the nature of the name and its origin. Thank you.
Councillor Griffiths, and then Councillor Carey, did you have your hand up? No, okay. Oh,
Thank
well, go on. Councillor
Through
Griffiths.
Chair, working with the theme, I was just looking at a map actually of how Blundell Way for them to golf.
Yeah.
That's what I was covering.
There's no policy on in this. I'm sure that's the.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was just gonna say that and add that we have a policy that has to go for consultation, so we actually don't know what the policy would look like at the end of that process either.
Good point. I think Councillor Hammond, did you have something?
No, I was just reiterating the Blundell Way,
We'll
which is
come back to you anyway, because you, oh no, you didn't. Councillor Ultra.
Thank you through you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that the road in question is a private road, not a public road. So it's not like a main street.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I'm probably going with what Councillor Bentley said actually, but I think down the track, we need to, because it's popping up more and more now with new street names and that we should have some sort of policy or a committee that actually has, especially with themes as well. But I'll probably stay with what we've got already.
Okay. Governance, can you read out the amendment for us, and we'll just double check that that's.
So the amendment for part B is to ask officers to speak with the developer about keeping the golfing road name and theme, but find a way to memorialise their daughter on the street. Being specific about the plaque, because there might be something else that they would like to do.
Totally agree, happy with that. Thank you, Chair and Governance.
And just through the chair, I mean, if the committee votes that way, then we would of course come back to you. But yeah.
All those in favour of the
Aye.
amendment?
Aye.
Against? No. It's lost.
Okay.
So we're back to the recommendation.
Substantive.
Alina Way is the proposed. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain? And no. Okay, thank you. And then our final one is page 190. Councillor Wheeler.
Just on that last recommendation, so down the track, are we going to put something forward that we will have a?
They're working on it.
It's underway.
It's underway now.
Thank you.
Okay, page 198, engagement strategy and planning services report.
Just to you, Madam Chair, I might, well, Emily, I don't know if you'd like to come up, Emily, but Just invite Emily for any specific questions on this. She was the
Yeah.
main for the paper. But take it as read and that Emily has kindly updated it to be as fresh as possible, as you can see in paragraphs 9 and 10, where it talks about Greater Wellington pausing or work on proposed plan change.
Yep. Okay,
The chair is going to say just take it as read. Any questions?
councillor Bailey has something.
Thank you. Yeah, on 5B. I'm pretty sure the time frame that we had to meet's come and gone. No,
Through the chair, no, it hasn't yet.
not yet.
We need to make a decision by October.
October. Okay,
We were
and
quite-
no correspondence from the minister yet?
No, we had some initial correspondence asking for further information, but nothing for quite some time.
Councillor Swales.
With the current district plan changes that we've got on the table and with the environmental court that we've got locally, do any of these changes have any impact on the fast track bill?
Through the chair, no, nothing impacts on the legislation or any projects under it.
Right.
They are entirely separate. Although in one case they have some relationship, but they are entirely separate pieces.
It's good to know. So they are separate. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? In that case, let's put the recommendations, which is that we receive the report, moved by His Worship, seconded by councillor Holderness. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, it's carried.